Hello and welcome to Joy Business, breaking it down with me, Philip Nanfuri. And today, my colleague Alberto Bisiu was going through the dailies in our morning editorial meeting and stumbled across something that seemed to baffle her, and I'm sure it baffles most of us. And she wanted me to do justice to it. I hope I can break it down for her. And I have to my left and to your right, Alberto Bisiu. Alberto, welcome.
Thank you, my analyst.
Thank you for that rousing title. Anyway, so you have in front of you the Economy Times, and what exactly were you going through that seemed to bother your mind?
When I have my analyst here, I have nothing to worry about. And what crossed my mind is banks' profit growth drops. And I've had assurance from the president, from the governor of the Bank of Ghana, that the banking sector is picking up. So I want to find out where from the decline. What caused this decline in the banking sector?
Alberta, thank you very much. So the Bank of Ghana releases a report every 2 months, and it's called the Banking Sector Report. Now, in there, the Bank of Ghana puts together the data of all the 23 banks operating in the country. Whatever time or number of banks there is, it will look at all those banks. Now we have 23 banks in the country. So now Bank of Ghana will put the data together, and media houses like this will pick it up and share the stories. Now, if you look in the report, you realize that over a course of 1 year, that's from August 2018 to August 2019, the profit has dipped. Why? Every institution, corporation, entity has two main lines. Their income and then their expenses. Now, if you look at banks, banks get their income from two main sources: interest income and fees and commission. Interest income is what they get from when people are repaying their loans, etc. And fees and commission, the charges they put on our accounts, our credit cards, debit cards, etc. Now, they have expenses, such as the fancy suits they have to buy for their staff through their salary they give them. When you see their fancy cars driving around, their big buildings, etc., those are their expenses. Now, at the end of the year, when they compute, your income should be more than your expenses. And when you tidy that up, in the end, you get your profit. So all they are saying is that, and if you look into the report, it's just saying that when they were analyzing from last year to this year there was a pickup in the expenses of banks in comparison with what brings them money. So that reduced the effect of their profitability, but they are still profitable. Just that it has reduced. So if maybe last year they were making 100 billion Ghana cedis in profit, this year they're making 90 billion. They are still profitable, but the margin has reduced.
So does it mean they were buying more cars, they were buying more suits, they were building more offices?
Fantastic question. So they were doing more in terms of operational expenses. So maybe they had more bills to pay, water, light. Maybe they bought more equipment for their staff, took their staff for more training, increased salaries. Those are some of the ways in which banks' expenses increase.
Okay, so I want to know, going through the report, I saw something on like return on equity. I don't understand.
Okay, so return on equity is essentially a metric or a ratio used to judge the health or strength of a bank. There are many others. There's the capital adequacy ratio. I'm sure you're very familiar with that one. But if you look at the return on equity, it's just looking at how profitable a bank is. So in financial terms, they take a ratio of the bank's income divided by the shareholders' equity. And shareholders' equity is those who started the bank. So when they strike that average, that percentage will tell us if indeed the bank is doing what they have to do to return value to their shareholders by being profitable.
And return on assets?
Return on assets simply, when we talk about assets, assets are things that you use to generate value for yourself. So when you look at a bank's return on assets, it's just stating to us or telling us, and it's normally a percentage, it's telling us how the bank is using what they have to do more. So how are they using their buildings? How are they using their investments? How are they using their assets to generate more for themselves? That's essentially what it means, return on assets. And all these are more or less ratios to check and see if indeed the bank is functioning efficiently.
Okay, so let's talk about Fiscal Council advisory. Behind the scenes, you were telling me they were for the president to advise the president on expenditure and other things. Are they helping? Are they helping?
That's a very good question. That is above my pay grade, but okay. So fiscal has got to do with expenditure and revenue, where government is spending their money, and revenue Where are we taking it from? There are two main sources for revenue: tax and non-tax. I'm sure you always hear us talking about tax revenue has fallen short of its target, etc. Now, government instituted a council to guide them in expenditure and revenue so that we don't exceed what you get. So it's like, imagine you are paid 1,000 Ghana every month and your expenditure is 2,000, which means that there's a shortfall of 1,000 Ghana. That's the situation as a country. We spend more than we get. And when we spend in excess of more than we get in certain financial years, they lead to problems. So this council has been instituted to guide the managers of the economy to ensure that we don't spend what we are not getting and we can match our expenditure to our revenue. So that's essentially what the council does. It's made up of eminent and smart, erudite people to guide His Excellency and all the people in the financial architecture on how they spend our revenue and how they raise their revenue.
I think I need to get a fiscal council for myself.
And I'm sure you also need to get a fiscal council for yourself. And this has been Joy Business, breaking it down with me, Philip Nanfuri, and my colleague, Albert Obisu. Bye.
Bye.